On this episode, always assume the close. Hey everybody, this is the Quarter Show again, and we're going to be talking about always assuming the close on every cycle. And you know, so often I think a lot of people are in sales. It's the nature of the beast. You ask for approval, you think you need to get approval or things like that. You're like, oh, I'm not sure if they're going to buy, I'm not sure if they're going to move forward or not. But you have to go in with the mindset that they are. You have to go in from the very get-go, from the very beginning, like they are, you know. And from before it ever happens, you know, before the sale, before the discovery call ever happens, you need to be going in. You have to be sold on the company. You have to be sold on their logo. You have to be sold on their brand. You have to be sold on their products and services and who they are. And you have to be so sold on your own products and services and things like that, that you assume that they are going to buy. If they're right for you, you're right for them, that they're going to buy. And that has to be a foregone conclusion in your mind. And I can tell you for the last, you know, however many years since we, you know, started the company, essentially, I've operated this way, and I've always been surprised when they didn't buy, or if they didn't buy, or if they didn't move forward. I've always maintained that I've been completely and utterly shocked. And that's how you want to be. You don't want to assume that things are not going to go, and you don't want to be like trying to win something like, oh, if they buy, or have this feeling of like maybe they will move forward. You should assume 100% that they will, and work backward from there. And you know, when you're in that mindset, you're assuming they're going to close. There's a confidence that comes across on the phone. There's a confidence that you have to have in your products and your services, and for going after them as a client. And you know, you can't have any back off or any waiver on that. It's got to be like very this strong sort of foundation in your sale, and you're assuming that they're going to buy, and then you start taking actions based off that, and it completely changes the demeanor and the way you tackle the sale, you know, and you don't have any of that timid or trepidation, because you're assuming they're moving forward, and you're essentially just consulting and advising as they go, and sort of moving all the way through the cycle from sort of a different altitude or a different demeanor, because you assume they're going to move forward. You assume they're going to buy.
And this is why this is why on top of that, like as a side item, that's why you have to be fully prepared already. Like you have to be very skilled with handling objections, concerns, questions. You have to be totally prepared on that, because if you aren't, then you have to assume an objection.
Yeah.
You have to be like, okay, if they say this, then I'm going to say this. If they say that, then I'm going to say that. And you get all into it. So you have to be like I've done pretty good at assuming they're going to purchase. But there was a long stretch of time where if they came at me with an objection, I didn't know what to do, because I assumed they were going to buy. But I had no skill at handling some objections and concerns and things. Yeah. So I was like, okay, sorry, Fred. I'd love to have you as a client.
Yeah, and
bye.
The reverse of that is true. In fact, and in addition to that, to what he's saying, is that when you don't assume they're going to buy, you assume they're going to have objections.
Right.
You assume they're going to have considerations. You assume there's going to be barriers and different things like that, and so you're bracing yourself. To some degree,
you bring a grindiness into the conversation, sort of a force. You bring some force into the conversation.
You do. There's an element of like, oh my gosh, I hope they don't ask for this.
I know they're going to.
I know they're going to ask. You know? And it's like, it hurts you, you know, because it's like this self-fulfilled prophecy. It's that you're thinking they're going to ask this because you're not prepared, or you don't want them to ask, or whatever, and because you haven't seen the close, you're like, oh, I know they're just going to. Everybody asks this. They're going to ask this. Lo and behold, they ask that, you don't know what to say, get stuck there. But you have to be so far ahead of that, where you're assuming the close, and you're, like Ben said, you're already prepared and ready for that, because most people ask this question or whatever, and you're tackling it from a different demeanor, or from a different viewpoint, or beingness, or altitude, however you want to phrase it. You're tackling it in a different way, and therefore it's from a high level of confidence. It's just that's just a logistics set, right? That's just a protocol step. It's like, okay, yeah, they want to know time length, or they want to know this, or they want to know that, or whatever that objection is, or whatever that just basic question is, or concern. You're ready to tackle that because it comes up, and you're just assuming the close is just the nature of closing deals. It's the nature of taking it to a close. And it's obviously a powerful thing to tackle it from that angle and really view every single deal that way. But if you can't get there mentally, if you're not thinking, hey, they're going to close, this is absolutely happening, and working your way backward from there, then you have to sort of like work on your head game and make sure that you're sold on your product, make sure you're tackling it right, and so you don't go in with that trepidation. You don't go into any sale with any trepidation, like I'm trying to win them, I'm trying to get something, or I'm trying to do this or that. You want to come in from the angle of like, assume they're going to buy. That's why you're having the conversation. Assume you're going there and work those steps in between.
Yeah, because a good salesman a good salesman, someone who's pretty good and can make some numbers, might come into cycles like fully prepared, they're armed to the teeth, and they're ready to handle the objections. A great salesperson is going to assume they're going to buy. Is going to assume it 100%, and is going to like very easily just disarm the prospect of objections and concerns. Not in a bad way, but in a positive way, and help them make the purchase that's going to get them what they want, right? So
yeah.
The reason to get to that point where you don't need to feel like you're Rambo coming into a conversation, but you can just come in clean and nice and calm, is because there's no reason to assume anything else.
Yeah, why would you?
Right? It puts you at odds with your prospect the moment you assume that they're not going to do it. So
you just put a bad flow in the sale. If you may not realize that you're assuming that they're not going to buy, but I'll challenge you to kind of look at it and look at your cycle and think, am I assuming they're going to buy, or am I assuming they're not going to buy? I mean, in sales, you can stack up so many losses, right? You can stack up so many loses or losses or whatever you want to call it, like where a prospect doesn't go through, a sale doesn't go through, they say no, whatever, that after a while, if you're not on your toes, if you're not on your game, you start assuming that's the default setting. Oh, they're going to say no. Oh, they're not going to do it or whatever. And you start assuming that's the default setting. So you have to get away from that and realize that those are the outliers. Those are the anomalies. Get them away. Just it's fine. Not everybody buys whatever, and get into the mode of like assume they are. Assume it is going to happen, and work from there, and work from that as a default setting, and treat those as outliers.
I'm gonna do a baseball story now that Spencer can edit out if he wants. But there's this pitcher named Dennis Eckersley, and he gave up a home run in the World Series in 1988 that ended a game. Like they lost the first game of the series. They were heavily favored to win. He gave up. He was a closer. He's the guy who finishes the game. They rely on him to finish the game. Gave up a home run. They lose the game. They lose the World Series after that, and it didn't make any difference to him. His following subsequent years, it was like he didn't remember that happened at all. It made no difference. He became one of the greatest closers, if not the greatest, that the game has ever seen after that. And he just continued to thrive, and it made no difference that he created this huge gap. They won the World Series the next year. Like, it was just like, when you're in this sort of thing where it's like, a lot relies on the salesperson and their success.
Yeah.
And these failures do stack up, and they cause you to start to suspect yourself and suspect
question
prospects.
yourself and
all the time.
question prospects.
The best closers, they have a very short memory. they don't remember. I don't even know, Joe. I don't know.
Oh, you remember all the wins. You just remember the wins, and that everybody
Fred
buys.
and Sally and Paula, they all signed up. It's great.
Heaven forbid some data scientist gets in front of you and shows you all the, oh, well, this didn't go, this one, because you're always in that mind frame, you always want to be in the mind frame that everything's a win. You're assuming everything closes, and work from there. And the truth is, it will create a better close percent. It will create a better cycle. It will create a better environment for closing. And the truth is, it'll create a better environment for the prospect, a little bit more comfortable, because you're not this sort of needy and sort of angsty salesperson that like is worried about losing something and positions it from an angle like the way they're communicating actually makes it feel kind of awkward from a prospect standpoint. If you assume the close, you have nothing to worry about. You have nothing to worry about because you're assuming they're going to buy anyway, right? So you're coming in from the angle where you're more confident, more comfortable, more relaxed, and from there you can communicate confidently and actually help them get what they need and kind of move from there. But you're assuming they're already going to buy anyway, So something to think with. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Certainly something I've used for years and years and years. It's always helped me enormously, whether they buy or they don't buy. It doesn't change my view.
No.
I assume they are going to buy. Even if they don't buy, I'm always shocked. I'm like, okay, well that's crazy. And by the way, even if they don't buy, they will buy. I look at it from the standpoint of like they didn't buy right then and there in that unit of time. I just kind of like put it on this thing, and I'm like, okay, well, that's going to happen. I'm still assuming they're going to close. Like I'm still assuming it, and then like 8 months later, I follow up or whatever and close it. 8 months. The only thing that happened is that they didn't buy in that unit of time. But I assume they're going to buy.
I got a no last night. Late last night, I got an email on a no, and I'm like, that's fine. He's gonna buy.
They're going to buy. Yeah,
okay.
that's how I tackle it. Like
Totally
they're going to buy.
okay.
Happened with a client, a big client recently, and I was working on selling them a year and a half ago. Sent them a copy of the book, different things like that. They're actually clients right now, big company, and worked it with a bunch of different people there. I assume the close.
Resistance is futile.
Yeah, just assume the close, and then they just kind of like it just kind of fizzled out. I also got distracted by other things. I was doing other things, so I didn't follow up with them or whatever at the time. I know, sacrilegious. I know, but I was distracted. I got a lot going on, and that's my excuse. And then and then I follow up or ping them or something like this. It's like a year and a half later. Or somebody pings me from there, and she's like, "We're ready to go," and it was a big deal, big account, and I was, I just completely the whole time just assumed the close. I always assumed the close, and so it's like, yeah, it didn't happen a year and a half ago in that exact unit of time, which is frustrating. But I always still assumed the close, and a year and a half later, I closed them. And they're clients today. And
Rob even sometimes he'll list out some of our biggest clients, like to the sales team. He'll be like so and so and so and so and so and so, and he'll list like 8, and the 9th one or somewhere down the line is always this client that isn't actually a client right now, but like no matter what, they're gonna be a client. This is how much assumption this guy makes about.
It's actually happened with the last 2.
Yeah, I know both of those.
I assume that
he walked out of the door down in Silicon Valley office and he sees the sign of this one company. He's like, yeah, they're a client. They're not a client yet, but he's like, no, they're a client.
They are in my universe.
Assume that close.
Assume it so fully and so completely that it actually happens. Okay, hopefully that helps. Follow us on Twitter at The Quarter Show and hashtag The Quarter. You actually hashtag The Quarter to see all other episodes on YouTube as well, and you can see it, find us on Twitter and things like that. Like the video, subscribe. I'd love to have you as a subscriber, and we have more coming soon. Okay, thanks.